Good afternoon. We are here today talking about planning and executing rural parish events, creating strong community bonds. My name is Lori Forner. I'm a program manager at Catholic Rural Life, and I'm here today with Angie Bittner and Jenna Reinert, who are going to share their expertise with you today and answer several questions. And you are welcome also to type in your questions in the Q&A section on Zoom. So Angie has worked with rural youth ministry as an outreach coordinator in the Archdiocese of Kansas City, Kansas. For the last 11 years, she has expertise in developing strategies to evangelize rural youth and families and is a consultant for parish youth programs. Angie's a member of Catholic Rural Life and provides her insights as a member of our advisory group for thriving rural congregations at CRL. And this program focuses on lay leader development to support pastors and their parish communities. She's married with 5 daughters, ages 19 to 29, and has been active in rural parish life since she was little. Her volunteer work over the last 20 years in the parish includes sharing her time and talent as a parish catechist and youth minister. Jenna Reinert is one of the CRL chapter leaders for the Kansas State University. It's our first college chapter with CRL. And this chapter hosts events such as rural life masses and other activities for students. And Jenna's a senior majoring in human development and family science with minors in leadership studies and well-being, and as well as a certificate in early childhood education consultation. She grew up in Colby, Kansas, on the northwest part of the state with her parents and an older brother. She hopes to move back out west after graduation this May and work in an area that allows her to make a positive impact in her community. Both are familiar with planning events in parishes or their Catholic student communities, and will share their lessons learned with us today. We're ready to jump in with our guests. So just a reminder, if you have questions, look at the lower menu bar of your Zoom and you can type a question into Q&A and we will answer those throughout. So to get started, Jenna, do you want to kick us off with what do you find the most beneficial or rewarding as a result of facilitating or hosting events?
Yeah, one of our biggest goals, I would say, being on a college campus is we try to build community. We come from all sorts of different places, whether that's across our state or outside of our state. We come from many different walks of life, different experiences, all sorts of stuff like that. So really just building community, giving people a place that, like I know for me being from a smaller town, coming to K-State was coming to the city, and that was very overwhelming. So having a place that had people involved that came from similar backgrounds that I did and could kind of relate was really, really helpful. And through like hosting these events, we started to get to know more people, and it becomes a lot easier to open up and relate and build community around you. So that's been one of our biggest approaches, I would say. The other one that we have is education. We are on the eastern side of the state, K-State is, and a lot of kids have come from the eastern side. And while there are rural communities out here, they're fewer and far between. And so having some of the knowledge just isn't something they've been around. So teaching them kind of what it means to be rural, and when we talk about farming, what that means and what it looks like and what faith looks like in rural communities, because there's a lot of places that don't have Catholic colleges, Catholic schools, Catholic. I mean, I went to Catholic grade school, but by 5th grade, I was done. So coming from something completely different looks different for everybody, but it's also like we have similarities. And so kind of bridging that gap and teaching everybody that we're all on the same page, it just looks very different. So.
Thank you. Angie, do you have anything to add about the rewards and benefits of bringing the Catholics together in rural communities?
I had the same thing as Jenna. Like I just thought about community, and that's how we do Christian living. Like we worship, we do everything in community with one another, right? So just yeah, showing that the church, we're supposed to be together, like we were created to be together. and enjoying life together. So, and then evangelization, even at a dinner, when you pray together at the beginning, you're evangelizing, you're showing that how we like live completely Catholic all the time, even if they're, people from different backgrounds. It's a beautiful way to evangelize and show like how we're supposed to live. So yeah, those are my main things also.
Okay. Well, why don't you start us off with the next question too, and talk about how often you like to get together, the frequency of events and the types of events that you would do on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think so I get to plan kind of regional archdiocesan events, but also done a lot of parish stuff. So I think like parish wise, I have found particularly with youth ministry that it's nice to do it on a regular basis. You might find that too, Jenna, like if you guys have like weekly things that are the same so everybody knows. There was one year where lots of my kids had conflicts on Wednesday nights. So we tried to do like an every other, we would go Wednesday, a Sunday, Wednesday, a Sunday, and it just bombed terribly. They didn't know when they were supposed to be where. So something like that, I think weekly, but yeah, you plan events based on what it is. So some things are just seasonal. Some bigger things, of course, you're just going to do annually. Yeah, I think it just depends on what it is that you're planning for the parish.
So, Jenna, what do you think about timing and the regularity or scheduling of events? Do you have any opinions on that?
I definitely agree with the having regular events is more beneficial. It's easier to build community. You start to recognize people. It's on a regular basis, so it's something that you fit into your schedule. With that being said, we have run into college students are extremely busy, and it can be hard to add another thing to your plate. So that's also been something that we focused on is we try to do more regular events, but we try to not do it overwhelmingly. So while we want them to come and engage and be present in it, we don't want it to be something that's added to their schedule.
Mm.
So trying to find that balance and make sure that what we're doing is beneficial has been really good. I think one of our regular events that we're going to try to continue to implement is our farm mass.
Mhm.
So just like, it might even be once a month, but just getting out in the country and enjoying the peace. I know the last one we had so many kids came out and they were like, I just needed a brain break. Like I just needed to get out and be done with classes. I think we hit it on an exam week by accident, but it worked out because they wanted to just take a break, and going to the middle of nowhere was what they needed. So it is helpful, but it's also something that we're kind of fighting an uphill battle in a sense, just because, as college students, your schedule is so busy and it can be very unpredictable with
Mhm.
exams hitting different weeks and stuff. So,
Can you mention some other recent activities you might have planned with the group of students?
yeah, we're working this fall has been really crazy. We're trying to branch out and come up with different activities. So, we are in the process of kind of one of our more periodic events. We are trying to plan a farm Olympics. So it'll be just kind of an obstacle course, but things you could find on the farm. We'll see. One of my friends that helps me out he lives close enough. I think we're gonna try and get a tractor up here and see if we can teach kids how to drive just a small tractor. See if we can figure that one out. And we're trying to figure out. I grew up walking barrels, oil barrels. You roam on the side and you can walk along those. So I don't know. We'll see. It's something we've never done, and it's something that could really branch things out, but I think it could be fun. So we'll
Mhm.
see. Another one we're wanting to do is a farm tour. So finding people that this also brings in our permanent community members. So we are a college campus, we have a Newman Center, but we have a good permanent community behind us. So kind of bridging that gap has been something that I've really wanted to branch out and do. And so farm visits would be a really good way to do that, but it also brings in education. Kids are getting to see farms and ranches and
Mhm.
understand what day to day looks like and
Mm,
what it entails. So,
great. So Angie, how about you? Could you tell us a little bit about some of the events that you have facilitated or implemented?
Yeah. First of all, I'm impressed if you can walk on those barrels, Jenna. I was video. And next, I have a little bit of a comment on the timing thing. One of the very first things that I always do, because I work with youth, but also families, is look at the school calendars
Mhm.
because we don't want to make, I mean, they do need to choose in a sense, right? But we don't want to make them choose. We want them to want to come. So a Friday night during football season or basketball season is just not going to work for most families, including grandparents, right? You have to look at that stuff too, and just big community activities. I think sometimes we decide on a date and then, yeah, we just don't do the forethought really early. When I was doing this, I did this really lovely outdoor rally, but we did it on prom weekend, right?
Mm.
Nobody came. Nobody came. And I was like, why did I not think about checking the local proms? So, anyway, some of the
No.
stuff that we've done this fall, we have done some adoration and shindigs in different areas of the diocese. They were really simple and purposely they were simple. We wanted to make them kind of reproducible so a parish could do their own. We were outside, beautiful countryside. Some of them we had a musician, a local musician. One of them we didn't. We just used a playlist. So beautiful adoration for an hour, and then we just turned on a playlist and had a dance and s'mores. So it was really simple, really well attended. The weather was beautiful, praise God, and all of them were nice. We had backups, but that wouldn't have been quite as beautiful in a parish hall. And then just recently, we just got I just got finished with helping with parish mission at our parish, and then I took the musician to do some concerts in the diocese. So those were Advent concerts, and they were really really well attended.
Mhm.
It was very beautiful. So.
So were those addressed the audience to a parish youth or to the whole parish and families?
So
Those
the
concerts.
Yeah, the parish mission, of course, was the parish and any surrounding, and it was every age. We
Okay.
had Steve Ingressano, who he can relate to old, young, everybody in between. So, and then when I traveled in the as diocesan events, those were also targeted to anybody, but I do them in conjunction with a parish. So I have a parish kind of co-host,
Mhm.
and one of them was at an event center, but still had a parish co-host, and then one of them was at a parish up in Marysville, almost by you, Jenna.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds nice. So when you engage in trying to plan events, um, who do you involve in your parish events? I mean, who do you need to check with, and what kind of team do you build, and what's the size of your team? I think give our audience a little idea of how you start that planning process. So Angie, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. I think the pastor is probably the initial contact, right? Because he might have a certain vision or an objective for an event. So the pastor kind of leading also gets everyone on board, like we're dependent on our pastors to spread the word and to be in favor of an event. And then something that sometimes we skip, but is like really important is to put a prayer team on the event. So there are some people that maybe some of the parts of an event aren't their gifts. So maybe praying for the event is really, it of course will always turn out better.
Mhm.
And then just assembling people that can do the different stuff depending on what kind of event you're doing. You might need someone that does AV. I know a bit about audio visual stuff. I could do stuff if I need to, but like it is not my specialty and I'm not a troubleshooter. So when I
Mhm.
have someone that can take care of that, whether at a parish or a bigger function, oh, it's so
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
So, and then hospitality, food, just all of those point people there. You shouldn't have to have one person doing everything. And you want the people that are like leading the event to get stuff out of it too. So if they're just working their heinies off all the time, and there's
Mhm.
going to be somebody that's going to be good at getting food ready, right? There's going to be somebody that's really good at greeting and welcoming people to the event. So that's
Mhm.
kind of the team.
Mhm. Nice. Jenna, how about you with young adults and students in a parish setting? Do you do things a little differently or gather different types of people together?
Yeah, I would say our team, in a sense, looks different every event.
Hmm.
Um, I have my friend Dylan that I kind of pulled him in and said, "Hey, you want to help me with this?" So we kind of lead a lot of them. We'll sit down and brainstorm, see what sounds fun to us, what's
Hmm.
something we would want to go to, and then we will take that to Father Gale and see what he thinks. Because I agree, he also is kind of our point person in a sense. He helps us get the word out in a lot of different things. So, and just honestly to keep him in the loop. I mean, he's very busy. And so if we can have something planned and come to him with it,
Hmm.
that helps.
Hmm.
And then honestly, from there, it's who do we know?
Hmm.
Who, I mean, depending on what it is we're planning, like the farm mass, I had the connection. Like I knew someone that lived here that had a pasture. So it really is just who do we know? What do we need? And then we are lucky as college students, we do live with other people. So bless our roommates, they have been amazing help. Um, and then honestly, just our friends that extend out past Dylan and I, who we know. He has some brothers here. So we have some connections that right now we don't have a huge team, but it's, hey, do you have 10 minutes free to just help me with this one thing?
Hmm.
And people have been very gracious and very willing to help out. And I think it's also something that we are new and it's intriguing. And so that also has helped build community in the sense of like, I just need help for 20 minutes tops. Can you come with me? And it works out great. So,
I think you made a good point about, set the expectation, don't make it anything too big, and then have personal invitations. If people think it's just this endless vast box of responsibilities, come to our meeting. Nobody wants to go to another meeting, but I like how you say we just go to the person we know with the talent we need and say, hey, can you help, for a finite amount of time. I think that sounds like a great idea. Any other comments about that, Angie or Jenna?
Oh, amen, amen. That's great. And that personal invitation, like to ask them to be on your team or to come to the event, like that's the most important. So yeah, that's lovely.
Okay, thinking about just the actual logistics and planning, not necessarily the team, but the things you have to do. How do you approach that? And, what's your style? Maybe Angie, start with this. I mean, do you like checklists? Do you create a more elaborate plan? Do you have someone else take care of that for you? Just kind of describe your process on how you decide what needs to be done and how you document that or track it.
Yeah. So kind of like Jenna got together with a small group to kind of dream about ideas. Specifically like youth stuff. I kind of have the same thing. I have a little youth council and we dream about what we'd like to do for the upcoming year and kind of themes that they think are important in their life. So that would be the same for parishes. Like if you want to do an event for young adults, you got to grab a few young adults and see what is relevant in their life right now and all for the age groups. So um, that I am sort of a checklist person. I have a pretty extensive like Google sheet with a lot of tabs and a lot of pages. So for a big event like a conference, I have a lot of checklists and I have all the different categories so that I have like my stuff before like advertising stuff, and then I have like the day of the event. and all the things that I'm going to need to pack and bring and do liturgical stuff that I might kind of forget about. So all the things that I would need for mass, it's just, a checklist so that you don't forget. So that's my main kind of planning tools, to get the idea, make sure it's a relevant idea, and I get all the big pieces in place first, and then just fill in the details. If I'm having like an outdoor rally, which you might not have at a parish level necessarily, but you might have an outdoor mass, then I want to make sure I have my musicians and my celebrant and my food people. That's probably the main people, right? And I have those all in place, and then I can fill all the details around it.
Mhm. Mhm. How about you, Jenna? Do you want to kind of describe your process on how you plan an event and track that everything's going as you expect?
Yeah, I would say one of the first things and it was kind of a God moment, I think. Dylan and I sat down for the very first time when we were both kind of like, okay, I had kind of approached him about it, and because he's from a small town kind of by Wichita. And so I was like, I finally have found another small towner that is like willing to help me with this. This is great. And we just sat down and I looked at him and I was like, Dylan, the one thing we're going to have to do is meet kids where they are. And he said, yeah, that's so true. And so, first and foremost, we start there. Where is our audience at? We have daily mass every day here, but how many of our rural kids that we know are here are we seeing at these daily masses? Are we only seeing them on Sunday? What is our point of approach to want them to come more on daily masses? So we start with that of who are we meeting and where are they at? And then kind of like I said, it's who do we know that's around here? So I'm a list person, so I probably make our lists and then Dylan will help me with whatever. But honestly, each event looks different and some are organized and some are we need these 4 things and we're going to call it a day. Like that's all we needed. And so it kind of depends. Luckily with Izzy's, we are so blessed with being able to borrow things. And so, even just like got coolers as college students, we don't really have those. So being able to just come to Izzy's and borrow it for the night has been really, really good. So
Excuse me, and for our audience, Izzy's is St. Isidore, the church where the Catholic Student Center and the rural Catholic students all attend on the campus. So, but they call
yes,
it Izzy's.
yes, I forget. But so yeah, we honestly, it's probably a list and it's probably some of them are a mile long that I will show up and it's color coordinated and we have our section that's at Izzy's and we have our section that I have and we just kind of go from there. Sometimes like it was our farm mass, I guess, the night before I went out and so it also just depends on who has time. That becomes a thing we've run into. But the night before I went out and hooked up the trailer and put it in the pasture and just the little things like that we've done. Depends on who has the time and who can. So
Yeah, and I think flexibility is key there, and understanding people's gifts and and how they respond to lists or checklists or to-dos. Some people don't want to see the whole list. It's just tell me what I need to do right now or when I need to be there. And and other people want to see the big picture and how they fit in. And so I think it's important to understand all those different types when you're planning and creating your plans and how you communicate. And then how do you get the word out? So what have been your most successful methods of not only communicating what needs to be done, but also communicating about the event itself? So Jenna, do you want to kind of kick that off? What types of tools or forms of communication do you use for your planning process and getting your group together? And then secondarily, how do you get the word out on your campus and with the students of St. Isidore's to attend an event?
Mhm. I think one of the biggest things that I have used is Canva. I love being creative, and I also don't always have enough time to like actually sit down and build something from the ground up. So Canva has been really, really great. Um, One of the big things that as a community St. Isidore's uses is GroupMe, which is just like a messaging app.
Group me?
GroupMe.
Okay.
And so it's a big messaging app. We have one that we create every single year so it doesn't get too crazy because we have like over 900 students in one like group. And
Mhm.
so having a place like that I'll build the Canva ad marketing, whatever, and then I will send it off to Father Gale or somebody that works at Izzy's that can then post it in there. And so that works really well. We've hung posters up just in our lobby. There's enough traffic in and out of here throughout the week that really helps. A big one, and this is also why we always tell Father Gale, they announce it at Mass. So daily Masses, it can be announced. And that starts to get the ball rolling. And then honestly, just talking about it. We stay after Mass every night and just talk to whoever. Um, I'm a very extroverted person, which helps out sometimes. So you won't, I mean, be surprised if I catch you on the way out, whether I know you or not. And I'm like, hey, you should come here and see what this is about. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, the effort is there. And sometimes it's even just stepping out of your comfort zone and saying, hey, you have boots and jeans on. That is a clear sign to me that you may not be from a rural community, but you have at least a little bit of interest, and I will take that little bit of interest
Mhm.
and I will grow on it. So just, I mean, being willing to step out and say, hey, this is something that we have, we are offering it. Check it out. If you don't want to, I mean, if it doesn't fit for you, it doesn't fit, and that's okay. Not everything will fit,
Mhm.
but give it a try and see if it's something you want. So that's
Mm.
probably our main approaches. We also honestly just like with Dylan and I's friends will say, hey, we're having this, and then they spread the word for us. So it's been really good. Once you tell a few people, it just gets around. And I've
Mhm.
also found if you think outside of the box and you call something like what something may not make sense, like we had a slab dance, and no one understood what a slab dance was, but it intrigued them enough that they wanted to show up and figure out what it was.
Mhm.
So just kind of thinking outside of the box and finding stuff like that people may not have heard of, but it sparked interest, and so then they'll show up because they want to know what happens. So
Mhm. And I know you have a Facebook site. Do you generally use that after an event, or do you also use that to advertise for an upcoming event?
we'll do both. We will every once in a while. I think before the event, it happens in stories. And then after the event, it'll be a post. So before it's, hey, this is happening, but it doesn't really stick around very long. And
Mhm.
then after, you can go back and look and say, okay, this happened. This is what it was. So I'm
Mm.
pretty sure, like right now, our farm mass is up and it catches your eye with the sunset. You can see which one it is, but
Mhm.
you can look back and see, okay, this was something that they did. And then that also helps with when we advertise again in stories, it's something they've seen. And so then that
Mhm.
sparks interest. So we'll do both. But yeah, that kind of brings in a different feel,
Demographic.
a different group, and then
Mhm.
we'll direct it more towards the college students with the group me and
Mhm.
just kind of talking to them. So
Okay. And then you said you like to use Canva, and that's for, creating your marketing materials. Do you want to just give a couple sentences on what Canva is for those that don't know?
yes, Canva is a designing program. It's super user friendly. I have used it for probably 90% of every assignment I have ever turned in. So that's actually where I found it. And then when I started doing the rural life, I kind of brought it over to that because you can do social media posts, you can do presentations, you can do, I mean, honestly, I say if you dream it, Canva has it. It has anything from posters to infographics to recorded lectures to, I mean, anything like that.
Mhm.
So it's really easy. You just type in the template you're looking for, and then it has a whole bunch of different ones, or you can start from scratch. You can make your own. So it's super great. And it helps if you don't have a ton of time, but you need it to look really good. You can
Mm.
just plug in the information you have, and then it's ready to go. So
All right, well, thank you. So Angie, how about you? What are some of the tools you use, not only to do your planning, but then also to make people aware of the events and, in your advertising, and then also to kind of post, the success of events?
Mhm, mhm. Well, I agree with Jenna, the personal invite. I think I said it, but it's just like the most important thing from the
Mm.
pastor, from the people. Canva was my number one thought too. Just it's so easy to use, and in right like now, a beautiful graphic is important. It's whether we want it to be or not. So you can make your flyer. You can change that to an Instagram post. You can change it to a Facebook, like a long event. If you want to create an event in Facebook, if your people respond to that, you could use that for that. So it's just important. And you can do a not for profit Canva subscription. You have to go through a few things, but you can get it for free if you go through their process. So um, I have a little list of other things. So yeah, attractive flyer and social media posts. Flocknote is my number one communication tool. It was created specifically to keep parishioners connected. It is Catholic. It is you can put you can put groups within your flock note. So if I want to reach just my altar society ladies, or I want to reach just the youth ministry parents, you can do it that way, put different groups in. You can send text messages and emails. So I do like GroupMe for some things, but it's also like an extra app that you have to have. And Flocknote will send a direct text or email, and you can put a graphic in that. You can also, if you get a little advanced, you can do some parish registrations. I have not done that, but they have very easy help, how to help, or help topics that you can choose. So I love Flocknote. You can create a newsletter in it as well. I had been using Constant Contact for a while, but I switched all my contacts over to Flocknote and use that for all of my communication needs. It's really lovely. You can do surveys and all this stuff. So um, let's see what else I had on there.
While
Um,
you're looking, there was a question about, can you provide a list of checklists? So I'm not sure that we can do it right now, but maybe we can follow up with that after the webinar at some time. So I don't know if you're able to share that, Angie, with us, like a high level checklist that we could.
It might be so messy. You'll be like, how does she ever even get anything accomplished? But I'm glad to share those sheets that I use for different things. I'm glad to. I don't know if it's high level. I cannot qualify it as that.
Okay.
The other thing that I just started using is Planning Center. I think it's a good parish tool for individual registrations and things like that. I've just started using it, so I'm not positive. I'm not an expert on it at all. I have a lot to learn, but that, and even a Google Sheet is so helpful in you can share them and collaborate within them. You can do Google Forms, so I've done registrations with Google Form before, and it'll compile the responses for you.
Mhm.
So I do applications that way sometimes with
Mhm.
Google Forms. So
There is a question out there from Father Bill Fox. I'm exploring eCatholic for integrated IT and website services. Do any panelists have experience with that company or apostolate? Either
hi,
of you?
Father. We I did a parish website through eCatholic one time, and I had a good experience with them. It has been a little while, and I am not an expert at website design. I don't know code. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But the website was easy to build, and they were responsive, and it was beautiful. I think we sometimes downplay like the beauty is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at my website right now. I have a lot of updating to do, but and it's not super beautiful. The platform that we use for ours for ArchKCK right now is not beautiful, and we need to make sure that it is beautiful. So I think yeah, going through something like eCatholic is great. I don't have much expertise.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then just a couple comments that came in from our listeners. Just want to say that Planning Center is fantastic, came from Grant Allen. And then he added Planning Center beats other tools I've seen like Ministry Scheduler Pro and Ministry Platform when it comes to communicating, scheduling, registering, and even event planning. So thank you for adding those inputs. It's always nice to hear from multiple people because we all have different styles. And some of us are just starting, and it's just nice to have a foundation for what kind of tools to look at first. So was there anything else you wanted to share on your planning? Maybe more on what are some online tools or that you use for posting events, your social media presence?
I we number one, we need it. Number two, I'm not good at it. I can do it. I do not take time to do it very well. But we do have Facebook, Instagram, uh, share the events. I do a lot of just creating like a Instagram post size, and then I send it to kind of my leadership team and ask them to invite people, provide it for like bulletins.
Mhm.
You don't have to run off a whole flyer. You can and put it in there, but if you have one of those posts on your website and you include it maybe in for the people that do read the bulletin, which is not a high percentage usually, but yeah, I like to provide those, and it really does make a difference if they see it for a long time.
Mhm.
um, yeah, and then yeah, just the different media outlets, and realizing that not everybody has those, and that's awesome. It
Mhm.
To spread it out across all the platforms is always the most beneficial because you're going to grab the most people. But again, Flocknote helps you do that because almost everybody can receive a text
Mhm.
that can have the graphic in it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, which is really great. So
I know.
there's one other um, online tool that we started using that Planning Center, I think, does not do a group registration. So if you were having like a regional event and you
Mhm.
needed to register a whole group, I think FormStack is what my boss has started to use, and to that I'm new as well. But
Mhm.
if you needed to do a parish registration for a bigger event, or you're holding a retreat and you're inviting all of the surrounding confirmation classes or whatever, that might
Mhm.
be a good one.
Yeah, no, really good insights from both of you on how you approach that. So we've talked a little bit about getting the word out. I guess I had one question. I know in our parish, people have started using QR codes. Do you have experience with using QR codes, and does that seem to be becoming more popular or not so much?
I think it's easy to generate. You just use a QR code generator, right? It's
Mhm.
easy to put a link in a QR code. Um, and it eliminates the need for you to put all of your details on your graphic or your flyer. So
Mhm.
it's nice that way too. And it's just people can just look at it and get it on their phone. So I mean, I think it's nice. I don't have to put one on every single thing, but it's nice to have it for sure. What about you,
Mhm.
Jenna?
Yeah, I would say kind of the same thing. You can approach a smaller thing and link it to a bigger thing. So, I mean, one way that we use it is that's how you get into GroupMe, but I also will put it on like you can put it on a social media post where you're looking at a teeny tiny square and then it can link to the flyer. So, I mean, I would agree they can be very helpful, but I also don't use them all the time.
Mhm.
Sometimes you want to just put your information in one place where they see it right away, and then you can move on from there. So I think they're good, but also frequency kind of
Mhm.
matters with that. Um, but the other thing I was going to say too is like, I shockingly, I don't really love social media. I don't like doing social media. It can be very tedious to me. But that is another thing I will say with Canva is you can schedule posts so you can like create them all and then link your Canva to whatever social media you have, and they connect to many different ones. And then you can just schedule them to post. So you don't really have to do a ton, but it makes your social, like it builds your social media kind of for you. So that has been good.
I darn did not know that.
Yes.
But
So I
scheduling
didn't either
out could make a huge
until,
difference.
yes. So I didn't either until I actually worked for, I did communication at one summer for a farm, and it was trying to market different things, and it was just becoming so much. And then I realized that I could schedule it, and then I could build them all up, and you can schedule like for an entire month, and then you don't have to worry about it. And it was amazing and the best thing ever. So if you like want to create, if social media is like gonna help you market to your audience, I would suggest at least trying that. And it will have a learning curve like most things. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but it's not hard. And so that really helps to create something without it being a ton, because that's the side that just it frustrated me, and I knew that it was going to help us, but trying to figure it out really was the key. So that would be a good
Um,
thing.
yeah, that's lovely. Sorry to cut you off. Catholic social media is another one. I just looked it up, and it might be under Prenger, Prenger Solutions, but they create Catholic content. They have the scheduling tools that you can use for the different platforms. They provide lots and lots of education on how to use social media well. So Jenna's suggestion of like putting the events in the stories and not just posting all that. Like there's they've studied it a ton and they know how to do it most effectively. So Catholic social media is a neat, ministry, I think. And you can find them at Pranger Solutions.
Great, another good tip. So now it's time to dream. So maybe Angie, you start. If budget was no issue, what would be something you would dream of doing for engaging your rural Catholic community?
If budget was no issue, I would bring in the best Catholic band, like just beautiful Catholic music. There are some that do it really, really well, but you gotta get them here. So the best, I would bring someone who is like of course, it depends on what event you're doing, right? But I would do like this amazing outdoor party where you have the best MC who keeps things flowing in your scheduling. I think we downplay that a lot if we're doing an evening where we're doing like a speaker and music and prayer, someone to like keep it moving and not make us like, okay, who's coming up next? It makes a big difference if you have someone who knows how to do that. A great speaker who can like, not necessarily like catechetically teach us, right? But teach us how to like open our hearts to being more that the Lord is asking us to do. I would buy the food so nobody in my parish had to cook it all. I would have it there so that somebody, just so everybody can enjoy it. I would do those things like if budget did not matter, I would do all those things really well. Those key things have a really good balance of like activity and then just like community, um, because you just have all this stuff bombarded at you and not enough time to soak it up. It's not as, I don't think it changes you as much. So those are
No.
I'm sure I'll think of some more.
Yeah. It's always fun to dream. How about you, Jenna, with the younger adult crowd, what do you think a dream activity would be?
Yeah, I brought it. Actually, I was also thinking outside, in a big, just like honestly, a cookout that like kind of an all night, not all night, but like a process in a sense. So like you start in the evening with like your supper, whatever, cookout. And then we as college students, it's really weird, but we all come together over fires. Like the amount of backyard string light fires that we have had is honestly some of the best memories. And so I think it kind of also brings like I know growing up in like in high school there was not much to do. And so that's what we did. And I feel like us being able to share that with some of the people we've met at college has really helped connect. And again, plays with community. But just having a place like that where you can just hang out. I was also thinking just very vivacious Catholic speakers or priests or something that brings them in and kind of lights that fire. Um, College is a very great place to relight that fire for your faith and find it for yourself. This is kind of the first time in life that you really are on your own and you're looking to see who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. And so being able to relight that fire, if maybe it's kind of dimmed, is really important. And that's something that, I mean, if we can do that through our chapter for just one person, then we did something right. And I think that's something that has been very near and dear to Dylan and I's hearts because in college, I think both of us would say our fire was relit. Um, and as individuals, we have decided to continue to grow in our faith and to really like make it something that is important to us. So if we could bring in vivacious speakers or something just out of the box, I don't know. I think that would be really great to bring them together and help to relight that. Um, and yeah, just honestly like a backyard hang, but a big, like invite everyone you know and feed them and let them have a fire with s'mores. And we really love swing dancing, so throw on some music and yeah.
Jenna, that's what our best things were this fall too, were just those shindigs where we prayed and we had the kids hung string lights and we had fire pits. And so afterwards, everybody's just making s'mores. I'm like unwrapping those s'more, like chocolate packages as fast as I could because they're just taking them all. And there was just like laughter and there was dancing over there. And it was, people were just visiting. It was for the entire family. And I don't know, it was like, when you just close your eyes and you think of what your best gathering is like, you just hear all that stuff together. That's what some of those nights were like. It was very, very blessed.
I agree. I have seen that too with some of the things that we've done. And I mean, it's honestly just, it makes me so happy because in a sense, it's also like I'm bringing something that is so important to me and I'm able to bring it to them.
Mhm.
And that has been something that has been absolutely amazing. And just hearing the joy and the laughter and honestly just the chatter. Like people are just, it's loud because everyone is talking at once and they're just so excited. And it's just so fun to see. And so, yeah, it's been really, really good.
And it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to spend crazy amounts of money. It's fun to dream, but like realistically, none of us can do that. But yeah, just yeah, I think it makes the Lord happy to see everyone enjoying each other and having some prayer and having just living life together.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah,
very
it's really about a love relationship with Jesus and with each other. And when that happens, I mean, I attended a rural life mass earlier this summer where I didn't know a person there, but because, it was faith and real life integrated together with mass and celebrating on a farm and a big potluck where the food seemed never ending. and just people enjoying each other at all ages. It just feels like when you tie that faith component and that relational component together, it just feels more whole and wholesome and holistic. You know, your whole self is engaging and not just a part of you. I also think it's interesting you both talked about outdoor events as your dream, but I think as rural people, you know, we're so used to being so connected to the beauty and creation of God that that is our happy place. It's being outside and enjoying that. So thank you for sharing. And you know, a couple things we haven't really talked about. We've talked about more social events, maybe some masses and things like that. But let's take a moment to talk about things that you've maybe done in educational type of events or maybe service oriented events that you've maybe done with parishioners. Angie, do you want to start?
I think youth ministry wise, our service tends to be like a trip, maybe like a prayer and action trip, which originated in Jenna's diocese, or a mission trip. But we have done just like service days, designed to not only like provide the service of some type, but including like I think we teach our kids and our families or whomever we're targeting like that all of that is connected. We're not just like we go and serve this population and then we go pray on a different day, that it's all connected. So we have like, maybe I shouldn't say this, but at our parish, we have like auctioned off our kids for service morning, you know? So you're like doing the fundraiser and the kids are kind of helping serve. They're not just a setup cleanup committee, they're part of the fundraiser. And then one of the auction items was that we auctioned them off. We guarantee that we'll have 5 or 6 kids and they go up and like show their muscles on the stage while they're doing the live auction and all that stuff. And then we go get to serve one morning at whomever bought us and go eat together or whatever. So I think those kind of events are really fun. Just checking out local, the kids want to serve and parents maybe don't have as much time, but for youth, service events are really important. And there's stuff everywhere. There's a pantry at the church and just all this, there's so much stuff. So what was the other thing you asked about? Oh, educational. So I know that at some parishes, maybe once a year, they'll kind of splurge and bring in a local speaker or maybe a college, someone who teaches college, just to like to share the goodness. Some parishes have that at their, as part of their parishioner crew, but just having a kind of a special thing, but always kind of tying it in with a welcoming atmosphere, like really hospitable. And food is like always a good choice and always sort of necessary. So
Mhm.
I know that we had just a ladies thing the other night and it was a wreath decorating thing and is one of the ladies just said like, I'm really just here for the food, which is so honest. And aren't we all at different events here for the food, right? So but that's what grabs you in and then you get filled.
Mhm. How about you, Jenna? Some educational or service type projects that you might have engaged in?
Our educational comes from our talks, a lot of it. We also do a little bit of, just I've had people the other day, actually, I explained the difference between a farm and a ranch. That's something that is so different. And so just as people see me, they'll ask, and then that kind of sparks their interest. But a lot of it does come through our talks. So, like when we did our farm mass, Father Gale actually just recapped, he did like a 10 or 15-minute talk on what we had talked about in Minnesota at the 100-year celebration. And we had kind of all come back, and it was something that we sat down and we were like, wow, that is what we have kind of said as coming from rural communities, but we've never heard someone say outside of us. And so, like, hearing that, we were like, there it is. Like, we have got to tell our students this. And So that was what we had Father Gill talk about. And then Father Buster is here now, and he comes from a small town. So we're going to bring him in and have him talk about whatever he wants to. We haven't quite figured that one out yet. But so a lot of it does happen through just the talks that we have. Last year or a couple of years ago, we had somebody come in. One of our professors actually from K-State is Catholic, and he came in and just explained what rural communities are and what counties in Kansas are considered rural, because that was something that people weren't really aware of. I mean, they hear this word, it's kind of in a sense a buzzword, and so actually understanding what that means. So a lot of our educational does come from talks, but it's what do we need to kind of get across. So ours they can be all over the place, honestly. One we have talked about is mental health in rural communities. That's one that kind of we haven't had a talk on yet for our students, but it is one we're trying to figure out how to, because we have experienced that. Unfortunately, we know of people that have suffered from it and stuff, and it's a tough one. So I'm trying to figure out how do I give this to the students in a sense of like, they're not going to walk out and be like, wow, that was way heavy and I don't know what just happened to me. Because I understand how hard that is. So it's something that I would love to talk about, but it's one that I've held back on because I'm still trying to figure out how do I give this to students. So that's been our other kind of thing that we talk about with specifically educational things, is how do we present this in a way that is going to be beneficial, that they will absorb, and that will catch their attention. Those are three things that we consider when we sit down to talk about talks or anything educational. That's been kind of where we start with that. And then service, we are in the process of figuring that out. Actually, Dylan and I talked about it the other day. We have at Izzy's, they do Saturdays of service. So it starts with mass, and then you go out in the community somewhere and do service for a couple hours, I think it is, and then have lunch, and then you're done for the day. So I don't know if we would kind of collaborate or host one in a sense or something like that. But that's one we've talked about, or honestly, just hosting our own day of service. It's a big thing around, I mean, Angie's right. Like being young, you want to serve others. And I think, and sometimes you don't know the desire you have to serve those around you until you have the opportunity to do so. So giving our students the opportunity to do so, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I've thought about doing different services on a farm. Like if we find permanent community members that need kids out there, maybe we'll go out there and we'll give them a little taste of working on a farm in a sense. So lots of options.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we are just about out of time. So I just want to say in 20 seconds, 20 or 30 seconds, any last words from either of you on, how someone would get started if they haven't done this before?
I would just say, start tiny. Make. I don't ever want one of my things for somebody to walk away and say that was pretty terrible. So start with what you can handle and make it, just like Jenna said, like make it something that will speak to the audience that you're working with. So whatever age you're targeting, or if you're targeting all of them, start little, but just include like really radical hospitality and a personal invite. And then you can grow from there. You learn as you go.
Okay, thank you. Well, you guys were great. Thank you, Angie, and thank you, Jenna. This was very helpful, and hopefully all those listening, got some good ideas. You gave them some tips and some tools that they can use. And so we just wish everybody a very blessed Advent and Merry Christmas, and tune in again. We'll send out another webinar soon. So thank you.